Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to 30 Days of Pride, where we're talking about a different trailblazer, organization, or event that has changed the way that we celebrate Pride today in 2020. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most influential Black women to have ever lived. And if you are keeping score, most of the people that I have talked about in this series have been Black. So take that into consideration. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most prolific writers, activist, poet, teacher, and visionary. That is, of course, Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde was born in Harlem during the Depression in 1934. Her work created spaces for uncomfortable discussion on racism, sexism, sexuality, and class in America. Growing up, Audre was born to Afro-Caribbean parents, and she had two sisters. Her mother was very fair-skinned and could oftentimes pass as white, where Audre was the darkest of the whole family. And because of this growing up, she felt a lot of racial bias towards her and a sense of disconnect from the rest of her peers. In the 1950s, her father died, and she needed to flee the McCarthy era of communist huntings in America. So she fled to Mexico, where she lived as an out lesbian with a lot of other expatriates, often leaning into racial fluidity, dating white and Black people, dating white and Black women, and identifying as neither a butch or a femme lesbian, but definitely different from the rest of her Black sisters, because at the time she let her natural hair grow and she wore very bohemian Afrocentric gowns, where a lot of Black women at the time were trying to suppress their Blacker sides to fit into society. Audre Lorde used her Blackness to carve a way for herself in America when she came back. And in 1962, she entered into an interracial relationship with a woman named Edwin Rollins. They had two children between 63 and 64. At this time, Audre Lorde became more involved with the civil rights movement and marched on Washington in the same year. During this year, a few of her poems were also published, including Now That I Am Forever with Child in 1964. She was included in an anthology about Black poets at the time, written by Langston Hughes. In 1968, she got a position teaching at a local college as a poetry professor. And during this time, after a troubled first marriage, she met a woman named Frances Clayton, who she continued to build a family with. As a lecturer in 1970, Lorde engaged diverse student bodies on the interlocking identities of class, race, and gender with history and culture. During the liberation era of the 1970s, Lorde's Black identity had grown much more radical. In her second book of poetry, Cable to Rage, that came out in 1970, she revealed her lesbianism. But seeking inclusion in other Black literature, she deleted an overtly lesbian-centric poem from A Land Where Other People Live in 1973. Lorde continued to write poetry and travel around the US and get her message out to the masses, steadily growing in her own community as a Black lesbian feminist and a civil rights activist. By 1978, she was diagnosed with breast cancer and had a double mastectomy, which then put her into another category of cancer survivor. Through this cancer, she developed her theory of otherness. She called it the theory of difference. In her pivotal essay, The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House, Lorde attacked racist white feminism. She said, "If white American feminist theory need not deal with differences between us and the resulting difference in our oppressions, then how do you deal with the fact that the women who clean your houses and tend your children while you attend conferences on feminist thought are, for the most part, women of color?" Lorde also marched on the Gay and Lesbian March on Washington in 1979, where she used her theory of difference to establish the fight for gay rights as well as queer liberation. She quickly became the best out-known radical feminist lesbian of her time. She was so successful because of how she deeply politicized everything about herself. Her color, her sexuality, her gender, her cancer, all was politically radicalized to the masses. Throughout her life, she traveled all across the world, oftentimes identifying with the lives of the oppressed people in those countries. She was seen as a hero to a lot of people, and she was seen as an agitator to some. Sadly, she passed away in 1992 after she succumbed from liver cancer, and she was memorialized across the globe. Audre Lorde was a person who used everything that was different about herself to bring people together who felt the same way as her. And she really pushed the envelope forward for not only civil rights, but gay rights, LGBTQ+ rights, and the rights of women. So thank you, Audre Lorde. We will always remember you. Thank you for letting us celebrate Pride the way we do today. That's it for today's video. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you tune in tomorrow where I will talk about another trailblazer in Pride. If you liked this video, make sure to like it and subscribe. You can find all my social media links down below and follow me there. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye!